Hello, everyone, and welcome back once again to the Great Scott Podcast. Today, I am joined by someone that I have grown up watching ever since I was a little boy. From Til You Drop to The Joker's Wild and many other shows you've watched, I'm pleased to welcome TV presenter Pat Finn. How's it going, Pat?
Really good, Michael. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Good to talk to you.
Absolutely, same here. And Pat, I want to start out by saying you come from the old school game show hosts because it's ran by comedians today. But you were first off a weatherman down in Phoenix first. So how was it that game shows came into your life?
Well, I went from Phoenix. I hosted a talk show there and did TV weather. And then I went to San Francisco and I was a TV weatherman. And I did this 3-day program called the Landmark Forum. And it's all about like getting clear on your dreams and then what stops you from fulfilling on those and being in action. So I said some crazy stuff, but one of the things I wanted to get out of it was that within 6 months I'd be on national TV hosting a game show. And pretty crazy. I wasn't, by the way, I wasn't even, Michael, I wasn't even the full-time weather guy. I was the weekend weather guy in San Francisco, not even in LA. And within 6 months, I was hosting Joker's Wild, which is just wild, that I made that happen. And along the way, I auditioned for the daytime version of Wheel of Fortune. And it was back then, Pat Sajak was leaving back when it was on during the day on the network and at night. And I auditioned for that, made it to the finals. I was one of 5 finalists, got to audition on the set with Vanna White and all, and ultimately didn't get it. But during that audition, one of the things they ask is, who's your agent? It's like, I don't have an agent, but so I said to Vanna, who's your agent? And she says, Richard Lawrence. And so I kind of turned to camera and said, Pat Finn, and my agent is Richard Lawrence. Because I figured if I got the job, he'd have no problem negotiating the contract and making the commission. I didn't get it, but I talked to Richard anyway, and he signed me. And then 3 months later, I got Joker's Wild. So that's how I got into the game shows.
Someone else that Richard Lawrence represents is Judge Judy.
Yes, I know that had been in the news a little bit lately.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
He's helped launch a lot of careers. Yes,
absolutely. So going along with your Wheel of Fortune that you were talking about, that job went to a man named Bob Goen, right?
Nope, went to Rolf Bernerska.
Oh, the football player.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was short-lived for with Rolf, and great guy, but it was nice to see Bob step in on that because he was obviously he's such a pro.
All right, so for those of you that may be wondering, because Pat, you said that you had given yourself 6 months to become a national star, mm-hmm. And how did all that transpire for you? Because that's a short amount of time. That's half a year to make a dream happen.
Yeah, no, for coming out of this program, it's all about like authentically being in action around what's important to you. And one of the things you discover is a lot of times we have dreams, but we're not really taking the right actions towards it. And many times we're procrastinating. Many times there's some vision of ourselves which isn't consistent with the dream. Like on some level, people wonder, do I really deserve it? Or am I good enough or whatever? And that program was all about coming out of there and just being really clear, like anything's possible in life. So I came out like, no, I'm going to do this. And, people in the newsroom would say, you do know you're only the weekend weatherman, right, Pat? It's like, it's like, I know, but I'm going to do this. And it was like such a, the word it's like a belief, but it's not quite a belief. It's just like a knowing, like, yeah, of course I will. And then every action I could take in terms of getting auditions and then eventually signing with an agent and all, made it worthwhile. Like, when Richard signed me, he said, now, just so you know, it usually takes a couple of years here in Hollywood for go off on enough auditions and people start to get to know you before you'll get hired. So he still to this day tells the story of like, he gave me that warning, and a couple of weeks later, I got Joker's Wild. So it was, I think, for me, it was about believing in myself and then taking the actions correlate to that, if that makes sense.
So in those 6 months, was there a time where you did think, oh, I must be crazy? Or, well, I know you talked about believing in yourself, but I mean, did you ever think to yourself, oh man, I must be crazy to think that, or is this really going to happen? Was there ever a time like that?
Well, there were a few moments like when I auditioned for the Wheel of Fortune job. I was so brazen. I thought for sure I had it. I mean, Nancy Jones, who was the producer, came out and told me, "Great job." Vanna White just, gave me a big hug and said, that was amazing. And so it was like I thought I had it. So we went back. I went back to San Francisco, and a couple of my friends got other friends together and other friends, and we thought what would be really cool is to do a pro Pat Finn protest rally outside the studios up there. So they ended up with 43 people. And it was, carrying like protest signs that said, "Give Finn a spin." And, Merv Griffin, of course, was the executive producer of the show, creator of it. And it said things like, "Merv, want to buy a vowel?" And it had my name without the vowels in it, and, stuff like that. Made the local news, made, the cover of the entertainment section of the newspaper. And Entertainment Tonight, Mary Hart saying, local TV weatherman in San Francisco has his heart set on the Wheel of Fortune job, and I didn't get it. So, after being that public about it, and then not getting it, there was this moment of, okay, what am I, crazy? This isn't really even possible. And, whatever it is that got me back on track, certainly the practices and principles I learned during that thing called the forum, made all the difference. So it's like turned myself around and kept going.
Now you mentioned that the Joker's Wild was your very first game show that you had hosted, and I liked your version with just the way that everything looked. And I have to ask you, did you watch the Snoop Dogg version of the Joker's Wild? And if so, what is it that you thought of that?
Well, I mean, it wasn't really the Joker's Wild. It was now something different. So, and
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg is Snoop Dogg, and he's amazing. One of the things it did give me is the ability to say to people, like, the next host after me on Joker's Wild was Snoop Dogg. So I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that I know of who's been replaced in their job by Snoop Dogg. So it gave me something to have fun with, and his version was fun and entertaining. It's just it wasn't quite the Joker's Wild, but it was still pretty cool.
I think his head was above the clouds, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, always.
Oh,
Always.
yeah, always, always. So, Pat, I want to talk about the show that I think most of you, well, most of us, maybe myself, remember you for, and that's Shop to Drop.
Right?
And I just love the gimmicks that D. Bradley Baker did. He would dress up in these like women clothes and just do just do all these crazy things for the games that you guys did. And one thing actually that I liked is that you guys went off around the set for that Shop to Drop, whereas JD Roberto just kind of kept it at the podium and he just played games with the contestants there. But so I just wanted to say that I love Shop to Drop, and I just love the gimmicks that you guys did.
Thank you. Yeah, JD's show was a different show that kind of got into the world of the big box stores and all that. But JD did a great job with it. When I had completed, I did 8 seasons of Shop to You Drop, and then I was off with my production company and doing other things. And I got a call from Stone Stanley saying, we're moving forward with a new version of the show. They want a different host. And it's like, okay, cool. And then I got a call from JD saying they're offering me the job. And JD and I are friends. I mean, we knew each other. I actually was the first person who hired him when he came to LA as part of my production company as a producer, and he did man on the street interviews for a commercial or something we were doing. And so he was calling to say, should I do this? And it was just like, yeah, of course. If I'm not going to do it, I want somebody I know to get a chance to do it. So I was really happy that it turned out that way with JD anyway.
So when they decided to revive the show, did they consider you for getting that job back, or was it?
I think I'm so bad with networks, like who revived it. Was it, we were on the Family Channel. We started on Lifetime and then the Family Channel and then PAX. And I actually don't remember who revived it, what network, but whatever network it was, they wanted it to create it as a whole new Shop to You Drop. And that's, thus the set, all of that. So I think it wasn't as much a at least I fool myself to think this, but it was as much a criticism of me as it was, we need to have this have a whole different look in order to work. So, that's part of the business, no big deal.
And the original pilot wasn't hosted by you either. It was hosted by a guy, Scott. I don't know if I'm not sure if you know that. Yeah.
I know of Scott. I don't remember his last name.
Yeah.
And whatever that was, I know I've heard from David Stanley and Scott Stone how the set was mostly cardboard cutouts and things like that. There wasn't even really a set, and it didn't, it just didn't. That pilot didn't fly, but the format was strong enough that they decided they were able to sell it to Lifetime and turn it into something different. So yeah, I'd never seen the Scott version of the show, but I understand it was a similar show, just kind of done as a way to put together a pilot as a demo of it. So I'm thankful that it didn't work out with him. So yeah,
the pilot is actually up on the internet.
Oh, it is? All right.
Yeah.
There's so much. Who puts all this stuff on the internet? It's like, my kids. My kids the other day was like, Dad, there's all these Shop Till You Drops on YouTube, and it was just like I looked and it was like, who? I appreciate it because it's a chance for me to see some of the old shows, and for my kids to see them who weren't even born at the time. I have 13-year-old twin girls, and so they get a kick out of it, but. Whoever is taking the time, like literally it takes time to upload those episodes. Whoever is doing that, just want to say thank you, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I knew it was you.
Absolutely. Hey guys, just want to interrupt this interview, just to let you know. I hope that you're enjoying this interview, and if you are, make sure to subscribe and donate to the podcast. We're trying to raise money for brand new equipment, so we would love your support and any donations you may have. So, Pat, I was reading online. Of course, we all know how true online stuff is, but there was something that I read that. When you took the job of Shop Till You Drop, there was like specific things in your contract that you needed to do. I don't know if this is true or not, but I wanted to ask you about that.
Sure. I got a call from David and Scott, who would often do phone calls and things together, and they were on the other end of the phone, and I was waiting to hear. It's this show that I was up, for Shop Till You Drop. I was up for it, and whether or not it was going to happen or not, and it's them, and I'm like crossing my fingers and holding my breath, and they go, we got good news and we got bad news. The bad news is that we need you to lose 10 pounds and get your hair lightened and go to our stylist. The good news is you got the job. I was like, sure, you name it, I'll do whatever you want. So that if that's what you're talking about, that's that actually literally happened. I can still remember to this day. It's like 30 years later, where I was standing in my living room on the phone. Back then we had landlines, of course, on the phone, hearing from those guys was pretty cool.
Was it in that house that you're currently in now?
Nope. I was in Ventura. We had, one of the things when we left San Francisco, we had, worked, I'd worked at a radio station. I actually helped investors buy a radio station in Ventura County and was running that radio station. So this house was a beach house that was, along the beach between Ventura and Santa Barbara. So it was a great place to live for at least a short period of time.
So Pat, one thing that I absolutely appreciate about you, and and I know that there's probably more, but since I'm speaking to you specifically, I know that you are a deep man of faith yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're very, very involved in your church, the Agape International Faith Center, right?
International Spiritual Center, yeah.
Or International Spiritual Center, there we go. Yeah, and you guys have raised a lot of money for charity as well.
Yeah, I've been, sometimes I regret that I don't do that consistently, but when I have, I've been blessed to be able to make a big difference. And, I've hosted things and did things for different charities over the year, particularly when I was a TV weatherman and doing other things. And then when I was doing Joker's Wild, Richard Klein, the producer director of it, he was involved with this orphanage clinic in Haiti. And I went there to visit with him, and we discovered I discovered, he already knew that, horrible conditions there were for kids in the general hospital there. So group of us flew down there. I brought, I think 9 people with me down to Haiti to get a sense of it. And then we started to create fundraisers and help support them building a children's hospital, Hope Hospital. So that was one of the biggest achievements. And then when the earthquake hit, Agape, which was so generous, they took on this hospital to support getting supplies there. So we not only got all these medical donations of equipment and it was crazy, what people, all kinds of medicine and things were donating in just a really short period of time. And there was a local trucking company here in the LA area, Sterling Trucking, who donated, driving it across the country. And then we ended up getting a donation of a chartered jet to take it into Haiti. So within 4 days of the actual earthquake, we were on the ground with supplies for what was now a children's and women's hospital. And so that's one of my proudest achievements, is having the chance to have been involved with that and be able to support the hospital during that time.
And you guys have raised, I think I saw online, it was like $5 million that you guys raised pretty much.
Well, and that's over a couple of different charities, having worked with the Easter Seal Society, and I've worked with the Heart Association and some other things. So it's it wasn't $5 million for Haiti, but definitely a significant amount. And more than just the money, it was getting all those supplies in so quickly, even before Red Cross could get in there. So we had an amazing person I was working with. Her name was Catherine Scott, and she
great last name, by the way.
Great, Scott. Yeah, and so she kind of, I was on the phone dealing with all the stuff here, getting those donations. She, accompanied the equipment and the medical supplies over there, and that was pretty cool to be able to make that happen.
So let's talk about the Hollywood Museum Squares. This is something that you had just done recently. There was about 4 or 5 different hosts over 13, I think, episodes, 14 episodes, something like that. And we had John Davidson come on, and we talked to him about it. And he said it was quite interesting that he had to look at the people on Zoom, whereas he's so used to seeing them in person. So would you say that's kind of the same thing for you, doing it Zoom wise?
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to Zoom. I have a coaching business where I work with people in the US and in the UK. And so we have teams that come on. So I'm used to dealing with groups of people on Zoom. So that to me was the easy part. So seeing the celebrities and all of that, it was more like getting the hang of these 2 people are supposed to be on the left and right of me. Like, do I look up? Do I look down? Do I look over? So I don't know if I got that eye line quite right. But other than that, it was really fun because, the producer, the directors were Steve Grant and Bob Loudon, who directed Til You Drop. So we've become lifelong friends. So to get a chance to do that, and then the producer, one of the main producers was John Ricci, who's a good friend of mine that I've known for many, many years. And, I love John. So it was like one of those things where sometimes you work and it's a job, and then sometimes you work and it's just like, wow, this is the greatest thing ever. This is really a blast. So yeah, and then to be in that company with John Davidson and Tom Bergeron and Bruce Valanche and all of these people that are just icons of hosting that show and in television, to have a chance to be one in that mix for me was just really, really awesome.
So who was your center square when you hosted?
Rich Little.
Oh, the great Rich Little.
Like great Rich Little, and he did the first segment of the show as Paul Lynde, voice and mannerisms and all of that, and how he would answer the questions. So it was just like, okay, this is the coolest thing ever. So yeah, it was really great.
And people can watch that online. There's a link to your episode. How many did you host? Did you host 1 or 2?
I hosted 1. Yeah,
just 1. Okay.
Yeah. So if people go online, you can watch, and it is a $10 donation to the Hollywood Museum. which is, obviously why Tom and John, and Bruce wanted to be involved to be able to support the museum. And, we had some fun in the meantime. But it is, typically we're not used to paying something to watch something like that online. And if you could just kind of get in the mindset of this isn't really paying to watch this particular episode, it's really paying to help the Hollywood Museum continue their great work. Because it's, obviously during this past year, during COVID, there was no business, and donations had dried up. So this was a way to keep them going. So, or one of the ways to keep them going.
Any news on you guys continuing to do that?
I haven't talked to John recently. I know it was originally decided to be just like a one-time thing, and I know it went so well that maybe we'll be surprised.
Do it again.
Yeah, it would be cool.
So Pat, I have one final question for you, sir. And what advice do you give to someone who wants to get into game shows? I mean, I know that times are different now versus when you started. Like I said, comedians are now taking over game shows. But what advice do you give to someone?
I think, that's a great question, because it's the traditional route. If you were going for on-air broadcast, or streaming game show, for the most part, the pool of people they're coming from are people who are either already known or established in another venue like comedians. So it's just like, okay, so how do you even consider breaking through that? And I would say that the easiest way, not the easiest way, but one possible way would be to create something online. That if you have enough of a following, the networks are now taking notice to that. And so if there's something that's unique and different that people start to watch you hosting online, and now with technology and Zoom and all, it's relatively easy to pull something like that off. If you can show what you can do and get a following around it, that will get you in the door at least to some of these places and agents. Otherwise, just as a traditional talent saying I want to host a game show, you've got a lot working against you when it comes to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and there's also one other question I wanted to ask you when we were talking about. So like we said, you are a deep spiritual man, and you've been in the entertainment business for quite a while now. And how is it that you managed to keep yourself pure in the sense of how Hollywood is?
Well, I think Hollywood has a reputation because it's obviously it's public. It's what Hollywood is all about. Yeah. I'm not so sure that kind of some of those no values, some of the negativity behind the scenes doesn't happen in other industries. Car dealerships, or in salespeople, or really whatever. Maybe more of it in Hollywood, but it's certainly because it's more public. And to me, my connection to God, my faith is so not determined by what people think or what people say or be. There's always going to be temptations in life, and it's mostly for me. I know when I'm being in integrity and authentic, there's, I feel better, my life works better, my family's happy, all of that. And when I'm not, when there's something that's off, then it affects me in every which way. So for me, it's just, of course that's who I'm going to be. And then, some other people are a different way, but that's really what works for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure you've seen every side to it in Hollywood, being in there as long as you have.
Although, I've been, particularly when I was hosting, because I hosted Joker's Wild and Shop Till You Drop, and then I also did another show here in California called The Big Spin, which was a weekly show. So when I was, exactly. And so I was on, almost every week for over 15 years. So it's like you're more entrenched in Hollywood during that time, where there's at least more opportunities and invitations. But I've never been much of a party guy, to be honest with you. So it's not like, oh, we got to get Pat Finney, he's the life of the party. It's just like, if there's something that if they're inviting everybody, they invite me. But otherwise, there wasn't a whole lot anyway.
Yeah.
That
No, I
makes,
hear you. I hear you.
yeah,
Well, Pat, I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. And I'll definitely post a link to your episode on Hollywood Museum Squares when I go to post this interview.
appreciate
And
that.
Pat,
Thank you.
thank you so much for your time, sir. Nice to chat with you, sir.
Yeah, yeah, great meeting you, and I really love your positive attitude and just some really great questions, Michael.
Oh,
So
thank you, buddy. I
so
appreciate that.
congratulations on what you're creating.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
All right, take care.
Hey guys, thank you so much for viewing this interview. It's been a pleasure to have you listen in. And as far as, and for me and for my producer, Tazi Starfire, thank you so much. We cannot thank you enough. All right, thank you so much, guys.